Book of Heaven Volume 3, by the Servant of God Luisa Piccarreta, Little Daughter of the Divine Will. Page 43–49. February 16, 1900. Mortification must be the breath of the soul. It continues almost always in the same way. This morning, after renewing in me the pains of the crucifixion, he told me, mortification must be the breath of the soul. Just as breathing is necessary to the body, and depending on the air it breathes, whether good or bad, it becomes infected or purified, and also, from the breathing it can be known whether the interior of man is healthy or ill, and whether all the vital parts are in harmony, the same for the soul. If she breathes the air of mortification, everything in her will be purified, all of her senses will sound with the same concordant sound. Her interior will emit a balsamic, salutary, fortifying breath. If then she does not breathe the air of mortification, everything will be discordant in the soul. She will emit a stinking, disgusting breath. While she is about to tame one passion, another will unbridle. In sum, her life will be nothing but a child's game. I seem to see mortification as a musical instrument. If the strings are all good and strong, it produces a harmonious and pleasant sound. But if the strings are not good, one must now fix one, now tune another. Therefore, all the time is spent fixing, but never playing. At the most, it will produce a discordant and unpleasant sound. So, nothing good will ever be accomplished. February 19, 1900. The Century of Pride. Jesus wants the hearts of souls all for himself. This morning my adorable Jesus came and transported me outside of myself, and I could see many people, all in motion. I cannot tell with certainty, but there seemed to be a war, or a revolution, and they did nothing but braid crowns of thorns for our Lord. So much so, that while I was all intent on removing one, they would drive a more painful one onto his head. Ah, yes, it really seemed that this century of ours will be renowned for its pride. The greatest misfortune is to lose one's head, because once the head with the brain is lost, all the other members become disabled, or they become one's own enemies and the enemies of others. So it happens that the person gives vent to all other vices. My patient Jesus tolerated all those crowns of thorns, and I hardly had the time to remove them. Then he turned to them and said, "You will die, some in war, some in jail, and some from earthquakes. Only few of you will be left. Pride has formed the course of the actions of your lives, and pride will give you death." After this, blessed Jesus pulled me away from those people, and as he became a baby, I carried him in my arms to let him rest. Asking me for a refreshment, he wanted to suckle from me. Fearing that it might be the devil, I signed him with the cross several times, and then I said to him, "If you really are Jesus, let us recite the Hail Mary to our Queen Mama together." And Jesus recited the first part, and I the Holy Mary. Then, he himself wanted to recite the Our Father. Oh, how touching his praying was! It was so moving that my heart seemed to liquefy. Then he added, "Daughter, unlike others, I had my life from the heart, and this is one reason why I am all heart for souls, and I am inclined to want the heart, and I tolerate not even a shadow of what is not mine. So, between you and me I want everything distinctly for myself, and that which you will concede to creatures, will be nothing but the overflow of our love." February 20, 1900. Jesus is the lamp of all in heaven. My benign Jesus continues to come. After I received communion, he renewed in me the pains of the crucifixion, and I was left so numb that I felt the need for a relief, but I did not dare to ask for it. After a little while he came back as a baby and he kissed me all over. Milk flowed from his lips, and I drank in large gulps that most sweet milk from his most pure lips. Now, while I was doing this, he told me, "I am the flower of the celestial Eden, and the fragrance I spread is such that at my perfume the whole of heaven remains captivated. And since I am the lamp that sends light to all, so much so, as to keep them immersed in it, all of my saints draw their little lamps from me. So, there is no light in heaven which has not been drawn from this lamp." Ah, yes! There is not even the smell of virtue without Jesus, and even if one went up to the highest heavens, there is no light without Jesus. February 21, 1900. Purity is obtained through mortification, and mortification renders the soul worthy of sympathy. This morning my lovable Jesus began to make his usual delays. May he be always blessed, for he always starts from the beginning. Indeed, it takes the patience of a saint to bear him, and one would have to deal with Jesus to see how much patience it takes. One who has not experienced it cannot believe it, and it is almost impossible not to have a few huffs with him. Then, after being patient in waiting and waiting for him, finally he came and told me, "My daughter, the gift of purity is not a natural gift, but an attained grace, and it is obtained by rendering oneself worthy of sympathy. The soul becomes so through mortifications and through sufferings. Oh, how worthy of sympathy becomes the mortified and suffering soul! Oh, how striking she is! And I feel such sympathy as to go mad for her, and whatever she wants, I give to her. When you are deprived of me, suffer my privation for love of me, which is the most painful suffering for you, and I will feel more sympathy than before, and will grant you new gifts." February 23, 1900. The sign to know whether a state is will of God. This morning, after I had almost lost the hope that blessed Jesus would come, all of a sudden he came and renewed in me the pains of the crucifixion, and he told me, "The time has come, the end is approaching, but the hour is uncertain." And I, without paying attention to the meaning of the words he spoke, remained in doubt about whether I should apply them to my complete crucifixion or to the chastisements. So I said to him, "Lord, how I fear that my state may not be will of God." And he, "The surest sign in order to know whether a state is my will is when one feels the strength to sustain that state." And I, "If it were your will, this change, that you do not come as before, would not happen." And he, "When a person becomes intimate with a family, one no longer uses those formalities, those regards which were used before, when he was a stranger. So I do. But nevertheless, this is not a sign that it is the will of that family to not have that person with them, or that they no longer love him as before. Therefore, be at peace, let me do not want to rack your brains or trouble the peace of your heart. At the appropriate time you will know my working." February 24, 1900. Luisa resists obedience. This morning I was all fear. I believed that everything was fantasy. That is, the devil wanting to deceive me. So, whatever I would see, I would despise and I would be displeased. I saw the confessor placing the intention that Jesus would renew in me the pains of the crucifixion, and I tried to resist. At first blessed Jesus tolerated me, but since the confessor kept repeating the intention, Jesus told me, "My daughter, this time we are really going to fail the obedience. Don't you know that obedience must seal the soul, and that obedience must render the soul like soft wax, in such a way that the confessor may give to it the shape he wants?" So, heedless of my resistances, he shared with me the pains of the crucifixion. And I, no longer able to resist all this, which I did not want for fear that it might not be Jesus, was forced to succumb under the weight of the pains. May he be always blessed, and may everything be for his glory, in everything and always. February 26, 1900. The divine will is the beatitude of all. After going through several days of privation, at most, he would come sometimes like a shadow, and would run away. I felt such pain that I consumed myself with tears. Having compassion for my sorrow, blessed Jesus came, and he looked and looked at me again. Then he said to me, "My daughter, do not fear, for I do not leave you. However, when you are without my presence I do not want you to lose heart, but rather, from today on, when you are deprived of me, I want you to take my will and to delight in it, loving me and glorifying me in my will, and holding my will as if it were my very person. By doing so, you will keep me in your very hands." What forms the beatitude of paradise? Certainly my divinity. Now, what would form the beatitude of my dear ones on earth? With certainty, my will. My will can never escape you, you will always have it in your possession, and if you remain in the circle of my will, there you will experience the joys most ineffable and the pleasures most pure. By never going out of the circle of my will, the soul becomes noble, divinized, and all of her operations reverberate in the center of the divine sun, just as the sun's rays reverberate on the surface of the earth. Not one of them goes out of their center, which is God. The soul who does my will is alone the noble queen who nourishes herself from my breath, because she takes her food and her drinks from no place but my will, and by nourishing herself from my will all holy, a most pure blood will flow in her veins, and her breath will spread a fragrant perfume, which will cheer the whole of me, because it is produced by my very breath. Therefore, I want nothing else from you but that you form your beatitude in the circle of my will, without ever going out of it, not even for a brief instant." While he was saying this, I felt an alarm and a fear in my interior, that the speaking of Jesus might indicate that he was not going to come, and that I was to find peace in his will. Oh God, what a mortal pain! What grips in my heart! But Jesus, always benign, added, "How can I leave you since you are victim? When you cease to be victim, only then will I not come, but as long as you are victim I will always feel drawn to come. So it seems I have remained at peace, but I feel as though surrounded by the adorable will of God, in such a way that I find no opening through which to go out. I hope He will always keep me in this circle that connects me completely in God.